What is going on, investors? Hopefully, you guys had a great day. Time to take a look at FedEx Corporation, ticker symbol FDX. First time we've actually looked at this company on the channel here. You see, year to date, this company has just been on fire, up 91%, got a $75 billion market cap. They reported earnings after the bell, and quite frankly, fairly strong, but was interesting after the bell. They management decided not to give any guidance on 2021, except they did guide that they're going to spend about $5.1 billion next year on capital spending. And more broadly, since I'm involved in the e-commerce business, that's one way that I actually make money. And FedEx is just, and all the shippers, United States Postal Service, UPS, they're all just under so much capacity constraint due to the amount of people ordering things online. So I found it a little bit surprising that they weren't able to give guidance, but it could be that they just have so much demand right now that it's difficult for them to fulfill that. And that's one rub on FedEx. When we talk about FedEx more broadly here, we'll talk about the numbers and we'll also jump into the stock chart as well. But one thing broadly about FedEx is to realize is this is a company that is restricted by the number of packages it can deliver in a day. And we're actually seeing it come up against kind of the upper limits of that. And so you want to ask yourself, if that is that the kind of investment that you want? Obviously, this has just been a fantastic performing stock. So the stock price doesn't really reflect that, but it's just something to keep in mind that FedEx, UPS, all these shippers have capacity constraints. And that is why we've seen the likes of Amazon really shift to their own delivery systems, because they cannot rely on FedEx to expand their capacity fast enough to meet the demand. We'll see what 2021 has in store for FedEx. I can imagine it's going to be a fantastic year, even as this year was too. Let's jump into the revenue. Now, what I've noticed here on this one, we just have really strong growth here. So we have 3 months ended here, 19, here's 20, and then we've got our 6-month view here as well. We see total revenues up about 19%. That is from 17 billion up to 20.5. We see it holds true for the 6 months. Basically, this was a really good quarter. You can imagine the fourth quarter probably going to be even better. We see we went from 34 up to 39 billion. Now, how is operating expenses kind of holding in? So we see here we grew. I love how when companies do this, they put the percentages in here because it's really easy to kind of digest it. So we see our revenues went up 19% in the quarter. Our expenses went up 14%. Obviously, our salaries and benefits went up. They probably had to bring on more staff. They got purchased transportation. What I'm seeing, I've seen FedEx deliveries in like rental cars recently. So there's definitely kind of constrained here on the transportation side. That's something that likely will be worked out in the coming years as well. Notice fuel way down. So we see here fuel down 30%. That's probably something that could carry over into next year as well. Total operating expenses came in at 14%. Again, we grew our top line here at a 19%. For the 6 months, our expenses grew 12% and we grew the top line 16%. So total operating expenses up to $19 billion. We minus that off our revenue at 20.5. We add back in some, we have our operating income here. I like how they actually break this out. Take a look at this. FedEx Express segment up 281%. Part of that is I have pushed a lot more shipments through to the Express because this is almost guaranteed to be delivered on time, and I found it to be very reliable, whereas ground and freight, boy, the times can be all over the place in terms of these delivery dates. So this is why I see this surging. I don't necessarily see this carrying over into Q1 or Q2. I don't necessarily think that the Express shipment will be needed in future quarters, but the current quarter they're in right now, which I guess their Q3 probably, is going to be fantastic because there's probably lots of businesses that are pushing shipments to express level, which should have fantastic margins in my opinion. Take a look. They spent 900 million to make 10.3 billion. So there's just there's fantastic margins basically across the board on this company. So our total operating income comes at 1.5. Guys, that is way over. We were at 500 million. That's 160 44% in the quarter. You see we're up 100% for the 6 months. We went from 1.5 up to about 3.01 or so. Now, down to the brass tacks, earnings per share came in at $4.55. That's up 114% in the year before. And then we're at 86% from about $5 a share up to $9.26. I think FedEx does pay a dividend. They pay $2.60. Boy, that's a tiny yield at 0.9%. This is a company where if they can maintain these types of earnings going forward, this is a company that can not only reinvest in their business, but also reinvest in some shareholder-friendly things like increasing that dividend, which is looking a little light considering they just earned a $4.55 and a quarter and $9.26 over the last 6 months or so. Now, moving over to the stock chart, this stock did break trend. Okay, it broke trend back right around Halloween time, right at the end of October. It was in a really nicely defined, you could probably even stretch this back into here, and it broke trend. And basically we're hanging out about the price it broke trend. So we broke trend right in that 280 range, 275, 280, and that's where the stock is right now. Now, two things can happen. When I see this type of formation on a stock, two things tend to happen. It either comes back up here and retests. We see it actually retested it very quickly. It broke trend and then came back and retested our trend line and then kind of got rejected, and we've been close. We haven't done a full back test all the way back up into here. Wouldn't necessarily think that that's definitely something that could happen. Again, we had a high here, we made a lower high, but then we were on a nice little uptrend here. We actually surpassed our high here. This chart doesn't look too bad. If you want to come into to FedEx, I don't mind it. I think we pulled forward this is just a tremendous move in the stock. I think we pulled forward a lot of gains in this one heading into next year. The fact that management didn't give 2021 guidance might make you pause a little bit and wonder what they're seeing into next year as well. Not that e-commerce shipments are going to slow down. I don't think that's the case. I think it's capacity issues. I think it's FedEx's ability to deliver more and more packages year after year. They have to do a lot of investment, not just in the transportation vehicles, but also the employees as well, and also the network. And then there's also lots of competition on top of that. So FedEx, not a bad stock chart, not a pretty bad yield. I wouldn't buy this necessarily for the dividend, unless you can telegraph some very hefty dividend hike, which I don't necessarily think is in the cards. I think they'll hike this dividend up, but I think they'll be conservative as they move forward. Just a fantastic quarter from the financials and the fundamentals. How much of this fundamental data has been pulled forward into the stock. We see that the stock didn't react really, really positively to the news. So obviously a lot of it was priced in already. How good the next quarter will be is an interesting one. Okay, we got to expect that the next quarter is going to be fantastic. So I think any deeper pullback in FedEx or any sideways consolidation could be viewed as a buying opportunity. So that was a FedEx. Let me down in the comments, what do you think about this one? If you've been long it for a while now, you're probably singing pretty nicely. So hopefully this video helped you guys out. We'll be back again soon with more videos. Good luck with your investments.